Hello, and welcome back to Take Refuge 3D with me, Peter. Now, I recently made a video on optimizing photo scan data um, for texturing software and game engines, and it was quite a few clicks. You had to go down to Remesh, you had to disable these and change everything. And then you also had to change your color attributes for your high poly mesh. Now I've already got duplicated high and low here, so you see that I've got the two meshes. And if you look at my scene statistics, it's a huge amount of vertices and faces here. So I'm just going to turn off the high poly one now. So we're going to create our low poly with this new tab or this new panel I've put into um, the Ngon Pro. So if you've got Ngon Pro already, you can go and download the new version 1.2 and it'll have this included. If you don't have Ngon Pro already on Blender Market, if you've got the basic version, you can upgrade. Or there's a promo code available to upgrade on Gumroad. Now, what this does is just it exposes some of the basic settings. So if you see the voxel size, a lower value will preserve more details, and voxel adaptivity, a higher value will generate more details where it is needed and less where it is not. Perform a voxel remesh. This performs a voxel remesh and preserves volume and color data. Use this to get the overall form of your mesh and then use the Create Low Poly button in the Ngon panel to prepare it for export. And then convert color attribute for export. This is for your high poly if you want to keep all the colors to bake into your main mesh later on. Blender does not, a lot of software do not recognize Blender's default vertex data. So what this does is it converts the vertex colors to something that's more readable by more softwares like Substance Painter and Marmoset Toolbag 4. And yeah, so this converts your color attributes to byte color and face corner data. This will make your vertex colors be recognized more widely in other software. Click this if you want to bake your vertex colors in texturing software. So this is sort of reserved for the high poly, and this stuff is to make your low poly. So I'm just going to go with 0.001. We'll start with that, and then we'll go with, I think 0.6 should be fine. And let's just see what that does. We might need to give it a couple of tries. Actually, for this Mandarin, what you might notice if I use those settings, actually it came out all right, but you'll notice some shade smooth. So obviously we've got our colors so we can see where our colors are supposed to be. But this is not what we would use later on. So I'm actually going to take that a step back and we will go to, I'm going to make this 0.005 and I'm going to make this 0.8. Okay, so we can just maybe preserve a little bit more detail around these leaves. Okay, so I'm going to perform a voxel remesh on that one. And it does take you into flat shading. So you need to shade it smooth again. It probably doesn't matter if you're baking your normals out anyway from the high poly. So we've got this, and I think this has done a pretty good job of preserving the detail on that leaf. We'll just turn our high poly on and we'll shade that one smooth as well. Okay. Alrighty. So that has done a pretty good job of preserving the detail on the leaf. So we should be able to get a pretty good bake from this in Marmoset. What we were going to do next for our low poly, okay, we'll just, we've got these shading errors. We can reduce some of those by clicking create low poly. Okay. Which has actually brought this down to, um, so you can see how many tries, or so how many vertices we've got here. And then we can actually see what the reduced one is in our stats. So it's about a third, but we can actually even maybe bring this down to 0.2. And let's see how our shape's holding up. Pretty good, I would say. Okay, so we've got our high poly now. We've got our low poly. So this is called low. And I already renamed this one to underscore high earlier on. So this is going to be for our export to Marmoset. And I think that's pretty good. So we'll turn this one off and we'll turn the high poly on. And what we want to do is convert our color attributes for export so that we've got our vertex colors being able to be baked. Okay. And we're just going to give this, I'm going to call this Mandarin um, underscore high so that we can differentiate. And I think this one should be, uh, we'll just remove that and we'll call this one Mandarin underscore low, just so that we don't have any double ups in our material when we import it into our other software. Okay, so on our high poly, if we go down to our object data, you'll see here, if we look at our low one, it's already removed the paint mask and the face set. So that's great. If we look at our high one, and we go to our color attributes, we can see here that it says vertex dash color. We do not want that. So we're going to convert our color attributes and just give it a couple of moments. And you can see that that's changed over there. So that's all good. Now, if we select both of them and we can export that as an FBX, and we want to choose selected object, and we'll just go down to, I'll just pause the recording and save this. Okay, and that's exported. So just quickly before we go over to Marmoset, I just want to hide these two, and we'll take out this pair. And for different objects, you might need different settings. So with the Mandarin, we had quite a lot of sort of fine details in these leaves. With this pair, not so much. So if we look at that, that doesn't need as much. So we could just go 0.01 and, or maybe 0.001. And then with the voxel adaptivity, like 0.57 or something like that. And then if we perform we'll just make sure that shade's smooth. And if we perform the voxel remesh on that one, it should be pretty good out of the bag. Yeah, so if we look at that, that's quite high actually. So we can go, we'll take it a step back and we'll go 0.01 and 0.57. What this is going to do is it's going to create more detail where it's needed and less detail where it's not needed. So we'll perform the voxel remesh, and fingers crossed this one works out all right. Yeah, that came in quite low. We probably could have done it a little bit higher. So one more go. 0.005, and this will depend on the scale as well. So you might have to play around with your scale. So we'll perform the voxel remesh at this size, and boom, that's actually looking pretty perfect. So if we look at that, that's got 3,500 faces. Once we create low poly, we're looking at 1,952 faces, and we can also just bring that down to 0.2 or something like that. And we've got our low poly pair at around about 1,000 faces, which is great. And we've preserved some details. So back to our mandarins, we've exported those, so we'll take them into. Actually, what we'll do is we've actually got to export them again because I forgot to UV this. So let's give this a quick UV. We'll just bring a little panel in over here, UV editor, and we'll just click our Smart UV at 67, something like that. Smart UV unwrap and combine. We'll open this up and we'll quickly just pack it. That should be fine. Okay. Now let's export these two again. Now we're in our texturing software in Marmoset Toolbag. I like to use Substance for painting and Marmoset for baking, but I also have started using Marmoset for baking. We want to bring in a bake project here, and then we want to take our autoloader and we just want to import our Mandarin FBX. So this will load in a moment. We've got quite a high poly Mandarin, so it'll take a little moment. Now let's just check our vertex colors. So if we did everything correctly, our high poly, so turn our low poly off for a second and our high poly on, and we go to vertex colors on our Mandarin high and change that from albedo to vertex. We've got all of our colors there. Let's bring that roughness down. Anyway, that is what we've got. Now let's turn our, and we've got that. And so we want to come down to our maps and we want to do our, just to get our basics, our normals, our ambient and occlusion, and we'll click configure and come down to vertex color. Okay, and we just want to bake our map. So we'll click bake on our project, and we need to make a new bake path. I'm just going to delete these because I did a practice run, and we're going to call these bake. Okay, baking the ambient occlusion. Now if we bring our Mandarin low textures over, if we click preview, we've got our normals and our AO. Okay, and then we just need to bring our vertex color in as our albedo and bring our roughness down and blam macaroni. That came out all right, and as you can see, our low poly has 7,000 faces. Okay, and that came down from 5.5 million. Okay, so you can obviously get it lower than that. We could bring that right down to 0.1, and we could have even made it smaller without remeshing, but just for the sake of this tutorial, just showing you how quick it is. So if you haven't got Ngon Pro yet, and you didn't think you need it because it was just for CAD or hard surface, I've now updated it to be also for organic models as well, and that just speeds up the workflow. So feel free to download the free version. The free version doesn't include any of this. It's basically just got the top part. But if you think it's useful, go and buy it. Otherwise, let me know what you think. And sweet as. I'll leave it at that. See you later.